Hello, this is Desiree Wood from Real Women in Trucking, and I am creating this truck parking presentation, Local Solutions to a National Problem. This is a presentation that I've given at a couple of supply chain events, and I'm going to be, I've changed it a little bit so that I can break it out of a bigger presentation that I give to supply chain people so that we can just talk about the truck parking that is going to have to be in the new freight plans for 2022 as a result of the new infrastructure bill. So I wanted to make this because there's a lot of misinformation out there that it's making drivers be not engaged where they could. So though this was designed to give to MPOs and cities and counties and states, I wanted to share it with others in an effort to try to find more advocates who will go to meetings in their states, in their counties, in their cities as the freight plans are getting done for 2022. So I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to be sharing the presentation and advancing through the slides. And let me get started with this right here. Okay, so you're seeing my truck parking solutions, and I'm going to start the slideshow and just be narrating it in the background. So the title of the presentation is Truck Parking, Local Solutions to a National Problem. My name is Desiree Wood, and I have been a truck driver since 2007. I went to CDL school in Miami, and I am a product of the modern day entry-level driver training system. I have over 1 million safe miles. I'm the founder and president of Real Women in Trucking. We are a 501c6 formed by working women truck drivers and Truckers Emergency Assistance Responders, which is a 501c3 charity. We help drivers who become stranded by their carriers and need a way to get home with their pets and belongings. I became very active in social media just because I saw so many unsafe practices, was not getting any help from any of the other organizations that exist. So I went on social media, and within a short period of time, I was interviewed by Dan Rather in a series of investigative reports. Since then, I have become an advocate, mostly out of necessity, but I was a trucker by choice. I love being a truck driver, but the responsibilities of the organization have made me come off the road and have to try to advocate for some issues. I'm now an appointed member of the Florida Freight Advisory Committee, the Martin County Freight Advisory Committee. I am on the Motor Carrier Safety Advisory Driver Subcommittee under the FMCSA. I am on the Transportation Research Board National Cooperative Highway Research Program Project Panel. I am an advisor on the CalSTART Electrification for Small and Minority Fleets survey. I consult on television and movies. I do have a college degree and working towards a master in nonprofit association management. Some of the areas of study that I have done in college is hospitality, accounting, global business and public policy, supply chain management, business ethics, gender issues in business, and administration of justice. As a truck driver, I've done cross-country team driving, solo long haul, LTL, some flatbed, and local food delivery, where I loaded and unloaded the trailer myself. The types of freight I've hauled are pretty much everything that you can buy: milk, yogurt, eggs, soup, ice cream, candy, office furniture, ergonomic chairs, computers, cigars, seafood, chicken, beef, Christmas trees, Valentine's Day hearts, Easter baskets, tofu turkeys, dog food, high security goods like electronics, tobacco, and alcohol, sometimes pharmaceuticals, even live plants, and the US mail, plus FEMA relief supplies. I like to mention all of these things so that people can get a visual of just what we're doing out there as truck drivers. I became involved in the truck parking movement with Hope Reivenberg because of my frequent activity on Twitter. In 2008, like I said, I was one of the few female truck drivers using Twitter for advocacy purposes. So by March of 2009, journalists started asking me to comment on the murder of Jason Reivenberg and the truck parking situation. It was something that I was experiencing, but I didn't really realize how long the problem had been going on or that it was being ignored. And that's how I came to know Hope Reivenberg, his young widow, and become her friend. My role was to use my Twitter following to get drivers to help us sign the petition, write letters, and make calls. And that's what we're asking them to do again now as well. The story of Jason Reivenberg was that he arrived early for his appointment to deliver milk to a grocery warehouse. The policy of the grocery warehouse was that no truck drivers could park on their property before or after their scheduled appointment. This is a very common issue that I'm going to address later in this presentation. Jason parked at an abandoned gas station nearby, and he was murdered by a teenager who saw $7 visible on his dashboard. His wife, Hope, was pregnant at the time with twins, and the couple already had a 2-year-old named Josh. Hope gave birth to the twins 14 days after Jason was murdered and immediately launched a movement for truck parking. It started with a bill that became a law in 2015. Jason's law is now the law of the land, and it led the way to making truck parking an eligible activity for funding when states include it in their freight plan. As most of you know, or if you don't know, freight plans must be updated periodically. And the next time will be in 2022. This is the year that it's going to happen. That's why I'm here right now speaking to you, so that you understand this important issue and you'll help. So the agenda that I'm going to talk about here is to share firsthand experiences to get a better visualization of how truck parking challenges chronic detention, the lack of compensation, and other issues result in hardships for drivers, which negatively affect supply chain operations. I'm also going to provide you with some ideas on how to implement at a local level to alleviate these issues. Most of these images in the presentation I took myself, and I wanted to show you what it takes to get a single product from point A to point B. The pictures that you see here are from being over the road. The top one with the 3 trucks driving in the snow. We actually aren't even driving. We're all 3 sliding backwards on a mountain. We couldn't move anymore. We just had to find a way to get our trucks to the side of the road so that we could chain up. The second picture is a picture of my dog, I guess, grinning at me. She had just locked me out of the truck It was 30 degrees outside. So I learned from that, always keep the window down when I get out of the truck, no matter what. The third picture at the bottom is a place that I had to park one night. If you can see in the distance, there's a boat in dry dock. I had to deliver ice cream mix to a little seafood store, fresh fish market, and the outer islands in Washington State. But they let me park for the night there, which was really nice because I grew up on the ocean, and dry docks and harbors are very familiar to me. So this is the agenda that we are going to cover in this presentation of how truck drivers are the supply chain, that we have a right to rest in a safe place, how detention affects the local community, that truck drivers are consumers too, where funding is for truck parking, and solutions that are beyond the truck stop. The supply chain in North America is built on over-the-road trucking. We are the supply chain, whether the origination point is by land or sea, foreign or domestic goods. But too often we are the forgotten link, and our time has no value. Our health and safety concerns are great. This is one of the top 10 most dangerous jobs to hold. So having a safe place to park while we're serving this nation should be a given. The images in the word and in this word cloud are the issues and concerns that we have seeking truck parking. Remember that we're not just fending for ourselves, but we're tasked with protecting the freight that we're hauling. And this makes us a target of crime. The word cloud, if you can see, are some of the things that we worry about when we do park, and encountering all of these places that are closed or don't want us there. For over 20 years, nationwide, truck drivers have been suffering the consequences of a lack of truck parking. Since there are few places to park, truck drivers will tend to find an alternative to comply with federal requirements. Truck drivers serve this country every day and sacrifice life's basic luxuries like daily access to restrooms and decent food to deliver products for everyone else. They are essential frontline workers 24/7, 365 days a year, pandemic or not, and they have the right to have a sense of security when they park. When truck drivers are forced to find non-traditional truck parking areas, it can turn to tragedy. Non-traditional or unauthorized truck parking also places truck drivers in a sitting duck situation. We are targets for crime. Cargo theft is a huge problem in South Florida, but it's a huge problem elsewhere as well. For local drivers, coming home means worrying about having hundreds of dollars of diesel siphoned off your tanks. This happened to me every time I parked near the Publix distribution center in Boynton Beach, Florida. Worse, though, was the theft of my equipment and my load when it was hijacked. In this picture down here in the lower left screen of the tractor, a little bit ajar by itself, that was my tractor. If I was in my truck bunk when this crime occurred, it could have been a lot worse for me. But I was lucky. I demanded the forensics team take a DNA sample from my fifth wheel pool, and we got a hit. That's what this paper is right next to that. The guy is in jail. He has not been prosecuted, but his DNA identified him as the individual that unhooked my tractor from my trailer, dragged it out of the way, and drove away with a load of Campbell's soup that was scheduled to be delivered that morning in Miami. Because there was no truck parking, I parked behind a supermarket in West Palm Beach, a place I'd parked for over a year and never had a problem. But this really isn't how it should be done, since shippers and receivers are allowed to not let us on their property to park, and law enforcement may run us off if we stage nearby. We've got to find places to hide and sleep, but that's where criminals come to look for us. And this can result in a loss of life. As I talked about Jason Reivenberg in an earlier slide, this picture above is the crime scene where his body was found. The one from below is Michael Bagelin. His wife was also pregnant, like Hope was. He was denied truck parking on site where he was scheduled to deliver the following morning. He was forced to find street parking in a bad neighborhood. And in an attempted robbery, he was trapped inside his truck with nowhere to go. His truck was set on fire with him inside. And that picture shows all that was left of his rig. Truck drivers have a federal requirement to take rest breaks and sleep breaks. Truck drivers are prohibited from moving the truck during their break. A sleeper break is 10 hours uninterrupted, yet some state rest areas limit parking to 3 hours. Federal hours of service compliance is mandated by the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration under the Department of Transportation. Most commercial vehicles are now tracked electronically in some fashion. So just telling them to move isn't good enough, because you're asking them to have violate a federal regulation for a city ordinance. I'm not aware of any statute or rules that states have right now as a requirement to include truck parking in roadway projects, or to construct a certain number of truck parking spaces for certain distances or volumes. This situation just keeps getting worse and worse. But as a result of Jason's law, funding is already available. States just have to include truck parking in their freight plan. It's important for MPOs to understand this issue, so they're not leaving money on the table. There's funds from both federal and state. This is why MPOs should be reaching out to collaborate with local law enforcement, code enforcement, and economic development departments to collaborate on rezoning, holding warehouse facilities accountable, in addition to short-term and long-term truck parking solutions where funding is already available, and identifying these problem areas. Truck drivers feel safer when they can park at the shipper and receiver, but that isn't always an option. This is a bird's eye view of a distribution center. From the street, if they're in your communities, they might not, show that they have this much land, but we actually go on these properties and we see that they are huge facilities. There's no reason why they can't set aside a few spots for drivers when they've run them out of hours by detaining them from their inefficiencies. They have the infrastructure already. Supply chain efficiency contributes to highway safety, and truck drivers should not be driving tired, trying to seek truck parking or backtracking 45 minutes to an hour to find basic services like food, restrooms, and just somewhere that they can take a rest, especially when they've just been at a warehouse 4 or 5 hours, maybe longer, that had one that denied them use of it. This is where local governments should be requiring new commerce parks and warehousing districts to include set aside land for ancillary truck parking. Otherwise, you're going to have truckers parking all over on the side of the road within these locations. So you might as well create a well-lit, safe environment and ask law enforcement to perform a regular drive-by so that truck drivers, their merchandise and cargo are not targets for crime. This does not need to be a full-service truck stop. We just need a safe place to rest. Here's some other things to know. The federal government cannot solve this problem alone. Supply chain efficiency contributes to highway safety. Shippers and receivers are often the cause of truck traffic to a community. Truck drivers detained at inefficient supply chain facilities should be able to remain parked on site. Most difficulties are in the food and household goods sector. Unauthorized truck parking upsets residents who then protest new truck stop construction. Truck stops are not the only answer to this issue. Supply chain leaders have mostly not been held accountable to solve this problem. Trash from truck drivers and insurance reason is no excuse for not allowing truck drivers to remain parked on site when they have been run out of legal hours to move. We hear this excuse often about the insurance and the trash, but it doesn't make any sense. It does not add up. If you've had a truck on your property with that driver walking back and forth to your shipping office, having their bills turned in, getting their papers signed, all of the other thing is opening the doors, backing up, chalking their wheels, all of the things, activities that we do while we're on the property, waiting, finding out, is my load ready? Or do you have my bills ready so that I can leave? Now, suddenly you have a different insurance policy when the trailer is empty. That doesn't make any sense. It's a weak and feeble excuse. With regards to the trash, there should be enforcement of trash that truck drivers put out, but you should also be aware that when you're not letting a truck driver use the bathroom and you're not providing them an adequate trash can, like a trash dumpster, not a trash can, you're going to have trash put out somewhere. You're also going to have drivers who are defecating in the bag because they don't have anywhere else to go and nobody is accommodating them. The other thing I want to point out before we move on, well, we'll go on to this and I'll include it in this. The federal law, again, it mandates 8 to 10 hours undisturbed sleep or berth time for truck drivers. Truck drivers should have the ability to rest on site after a delivery if the facility has exceeded 3 hours to load or unload a trailer. So this is putting the accountability back on the shipper and receiver. This is highway safety. Truck drivers being kicked off site after a delivery is unsafe and it's unfair. They have probably just completed the last congested mile link of the trip and they're told to get back out on the road. Fatigued driving has been linked to impaired driving, like a drunk driver. Preventing impaired truck drivers from being on the highway should not be a controversial topic. This is why the shippers and receivers must be held accountable. In Florida, they actually have a Florida Drowsy Driving Prevention Week, which was specifically created to prevent fatigued drivers from being on the highway. Therefore, commercial motor vehicle operators should have more advocates to help them find places to rest. So in this presentation, I use Florida and Nevada as an example because that is where I took this presentation this week, Florida, but I'm living in Nevada right now. The Florida Department of Transportation statewide freight mobility and trade plan includes several references to truck driving. But there's only a handful of champions nationwide, and this issue needs to be more vocalized. This is why I'm doing this presentation, to get more people to advocate for this. Go to meetings, talk about it, and explain why, because a lot of people don't understand. States are still learning how to use their freight formulas and access funding, but they're also still learning about the truck parking issues in their states, their counties, and their cities, where distribution center clusters are not making a provision for the truck traffic they are bringing to the area. This is a remark from a grocery executive who attended a truck parking meeting, and it illustrates how much work we need to do at a local level to solve this problem. This is what he said. We don't really care about over-the-road truck drivers, truck parking concerns. We only care about our private fleet drivers. So this is really the wrong attitude. This is precisely the type of mentality that left Jason Reivenberg at an abandoned gas station where he lost his life, and Michael Bagelin on a side street where he was burned alive in his truck. I have a couple of bullet points here about Operation Lot Lizard is not the solution. More community education, communication, and involvement. We're going to talk about that slide in a minute, because law enforcement does need to be on the same page with the state DOT and the MPOs. They are the ones that are patrolling the area. So when they see the trucks parked, they don't really understand, why is it here? What are they doing? The cause of a lot of the truck parking issues are from detention. And what that means is you go to pick up a load from a shipper and receiver. They dictate a very strict appointment to you. And then when you get there, they're not ready. You could be there 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, 10 hours. You just don't know sometimes. It should never take more than an hour to load a trailer with proper staging of product, equipment, and training. I know, I've done it. To get an idea whether a facility detains truck drivers, you can look at a Google review and see that truck drivers leave messages for other truck drivers on how long that place takes, if they were allowed to use the restroom while waiting, and how they were treated overall. Time really has no value when you don't have to pay for it. Warehouse workers are paid for their time, but truck drivers mostly aren't. The just-in-time method of ordering places the burden of supply chain inefficiencies on the truck driver, who are largely not paid for all the time they work. And it has consequences to health and safety. Denying truck drivers serving this country the use of bathroom facilities is a human rights violation. It should not be a perk at some shipper receiver facilities. It should be required. We have the technology to put a toilet in a recreational vehicle, and we have the technology to create a truck that drives all by itself. But we've never put a toilet in a truck for the drivers, even though just about every truck stop has an RV dump station. So why aren't trucks equipped with such a basic need? It's unacceptable to deny truck drivers the use of a toilet at a modern distribution center. And I'm not talking about having a specific women's room either. I'm talking about not allowing truck drivers of any gender at all to use the bathroom. This should be required, not a luxury item. It's human dignity. I use these pictures on this slide to share the story of a screenwriter turned director of a movie that I worked on this summer, which will come out in the fall of 2022. It's called Paradise Highway, and it stars Juliette Binoche and Morgan Freeman that you can see in the pictures there below. When I took her name is Anna Guto. I took her on a ride along in 2017 when we were working on the script. We had a 2-stop delivery, both food stops, and Anna needed to use the restroom. And I told her to go in and ask, and they did what they do and said that she was not allowed to use their bathroom because she came in the truck. And she was just really, taken aback. And I said, that's trucking. It's something that a lot of people don't know or understand, and it should not be happening. It's completely unacceptable. I'm not a lawyer, but I think there's something here in a case that I found called Heart of Atlanta Motel versus the United States. It was heard by the Supreme Court in 1964, and it has to do with impeding interstate commerce. I won't go into all of the details of what the case is, but I do believe that it is impeding interstate commerce by having truck drivers backtrack to search for bathrooms because they were denied use of one at a shipper and receiver. It's also impeding interstate commerce when drivers are searching for a place to park and being turned away or told they can't park there. So we are shopping different now, and that is creating a lot of truck traffic in certain areas. These images are two aerial views overlapping one another. The one in the lower left is the area a few years ago when there wasn't much in this region. And the other one to the right with the shaded areas is more similar to what it looks today, except it's even more populated now. But the shaded areas are master plan communities where the homes are quite expensive, like $450,000 and way up. Okay. If you can see the Raiders logo there, that's where the new Las Vegas Raiders headquarters is. And FedEx, Smith's Food King, which is a grocery distribution center, a big chain in the Western United States. And then you see Amazon. Amazon's logo there. Now they have this area of dirt in front of it going to the top. They have taken all of that land. All of that is now industrial park and an Amazon hub and goes all the way down to that St. Rose Parkway. The yellow line is Interstate 15. This area is just south of the Las Vegas Strip. This is how poor planning by the economic division did not anticipate, maybe because they just don't know. Amazon does not let truck drivers park on their property, and they don't let us use the bathroom either. So what's been happening is when the truck drivers, they don't have anywhere to park around here, they just park out in the open desert because there's still a lot of vacant land. But as these master plan communities and more shopping grows and this it turns more into residential, it's gonna go around this industrial area and you're gonna have some headbutting. the residents that buy homes that are this expensive do not want to see a truck stop on the corner. These are things that should have been planned out in advance. These are things where the economic division should have went to Amazon and said, you're going to be bringing this much truck traffic here. You need to, section off a place where this truck traffic could park. But they didn't do that. So what I've been seeing, because I have an apartment here, is that the trucks park in these dirt lots, and then the city will come and they'll pour dirt so that the trucks can't get in there anymore. So the trucks will go to the next dirt lot and they'll pour dirt over there. So this is where they're parking right now, which is right around the corner from where I'm at right now. And it's only a matter of time till the city comes. But the other thing that's happening is the RVs are now coming, and that really starts ruining. So there's actually people squatting out there living in the parking lot that have their RV with their pop outs, with their lawn chairs and their ATVs and all of this stuff. And now it's going to really draw attention and run the drivers out who are going to suffer the most as a result of this. This should have been planned all the way from the beginning before this ever took place. This is a situation that happened in April 2021 in South Florida. I get a Google alert for anything about truck parking and truck stops. Since 2009, I've been getting these emails. I post some of them and some of them I don't, but anyway, this one I got and I was just like really taken aback with it. And it's called Operation Lot Lizard, meaning the lot lizards are the truck drivers. That's what they called it. Very offensive. If any of you are familiar with Truckers Against Trafficking, I am a certified trucker against trafficking myself. That is a term that they don't really like for people to use because it's very dehumanizing, but I have never heard it used to describe truck drivers who are trying to find a safe place to park so they can go home. What this lot is in South Florida, outside Miami, where somebody owned this real estate. And they made a place for truck drivers to park. And when they're on the road with their truck, they put their car in the spot so nobody takes their spot, and they pay a monthly fee. This particular type of lot would not really work for over-the-road drivers, but drivers that live in South Florida and other places, this would be a great thing to have, especially if you worry about cargo theft or equipment theft, which is a big deal in South Florida. So this is an example of how you really need to get people on the same page to solve this problem. There is a need for clean, secure, private paid truck parking for local truck drivers who do not want to worry about their equipment. So this individual that did this should be celebrated, not shut down. How do we prevent something like this from happening again? This should never be happening anywhere, and cracking down and shutting this down. So there's some of the solutions beyond the truck stop. Repurpose paved existing areas, vacant warehousing, and provide services to generate revenue. Truck drivers are your customers too. We will spend a few $100s when we can park someplace with services we want and we need. Vacant existing infrastructure can be repurposed with services. Some of the examples of this are strip malls, outlet malls, a portion of an unused casino parking area or outlet mall, Greyhound racing tracks, Native American travel centers, and vacant commercial real estate like Duke Realty or Pro Lodges. one bay rentals. There's businesses that they use one of their bays, but they have 3 bays, or they have a couple parts of the building that go in the bays that don't have a door. There's all kinds of things that we should think about here. Since truck drivers are consumers too, what kinds of services would they spend money on? Laundry, especially oversized washers, Wi-Fi cafes so they can get out of the truck and do some things on the computer, restaurants with healthy food choices, especially ones that are dog friendly, because a lot of drivers ride with their dogs, a gym, like a Planet Fitness chain where a lot of truck drivers already have memberships because they're usually in older strip malls that are big driveways where tractor trailers can fit. So you get a black card membership there, you can park there, use their shower. They have the aqua massage loungers, and they usually have a restaurant and nail salons and barbers in those same strip malls and supermarkets. Dog walking, grooming, do-it-yourself dog wash, indoor dog park, hydro massage, chiropractor, DOT medical, mail services, a bowling alley, even a movie theater. There's all kinds of things. What we really want people to understand, though, is that most truck drivers are not reimbursed for paid truck parking. Truck drivers do spend several $100s when they can park. And when you combine Tesla charging areas with truck parking, services will improve for the truck drivers. So the truck parking solutions really require new players and new innovators that think about this topic a different way. We know in the new infrastructure bill, there is a lot of funding for charging and electrification. So if you think about how you can combine these two things together, you can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Revenue generation through services, multi-purpose parking, it improves the quality for all. Electrification requires truck parking. Electrification can be powered by solar. And when we start thinking about constructing inland ports, truck parking should be part of the plan. Here is an example. In 1908, Casa de Fruta in Hollister, California began as just an orchard. And in the 1940s, it sold baskets of cherries and other produce to people traveling. Later, it added a hamburger stand, a 24-hour restaurant, a taco stand, this beautiful merry-go-round, and some other amusements like a train. It even has an RV park, but it also has truck parking. This was a lonely state highway from Silicon Valley. It was at one time called Blood Alley by the truck drivers. It was very dangerous, but the road has since been widened and improved, and it still gets a lot of traffic. And a lot of people stop at this roadside attraction. To update itself or reinvent itself, Casa de Fruta added Tesla superchargers. You can see in the smaller picture by the peacock. So the Tesla chargers now accommodate this new, customer base they have that come to their roadside attraction. But as you can see, they did not remove the truck parking, and they allow you to park along the inner frontage road as well. So by including it and adding it, it complements it, but it helps the truck drivers without sacrificing their spaces. They did not take out spaces that the truck drivers used, who were their dedicated customers, their most loyal and regular customers, since they first opened their place. So thinking about past and future, the final miles are the hardest miles for truck drivers, and electrified trucks will still need truck parking. Alternative truck parking solutions in industrial areas will complement the truck stops who have been unable to secure real estate for new locations. Truck drivers are still going to have to fuel at truck stops. They're still going to have to go there for a shower. And innovators need to think of ideas that other places have used. The Ohio Turnpike, I'm not proposing toll roads, but as a free service to the truck drivers, they have provided free showers and they have laundry facilities. That's why there's so much room for new innovators that see that creating a truck parking oasis can generate revenue, not just from the truck drivers, but from other people that will need parking. Here's some other ideas of pictures that I've taken. Poor planning, good services, vacant strip malls, vacant dog racing, the bowling alley. There's one that we know of at Columbia, South Carolina, Petro. It's awesome. I mean, you wish that you ran out of hours there. Jubit's truck stop in Portland, Oregon has a do-it-yourself coin-operated dog wash. The dog is getting a bath when you get there. Some of these other pictures, though, I took of the inside of an airport where they had a miniature golf, a Wi-Fi sitting area. The other one is an oversized laundry facility, coin-operated laundry facility with Wi-Fi and very comfortable. And it was just intended to show some ideas of what we need. Also, some examples of poor planning. The Tesla chargers in the top right corner submerged in water. This is an example of poor planning. There is a lot of money in the infrastructure bill for charging stations, but if you have a poor plan like this, it's just a money grab. You know, you weren't paying attention to what you're dealing with. The one below it, this is an old dirt lot where truck drivers have parking for a long time. And it was just an old Valero gas station. Now Tesla's come in and put these charging stations in, and they've covered it with the solar power panels to generate for the power. So you have a lot of Tesla drivers that stop here in Baker, California to charge up, but they did not take out the truck parking. They also have now really nice bathrooms, and they've got 2 fast food places. They got a Dairy Queen, and they got like a Jersey Boy Subs and a C-store. But these are large improvements to what they used to have there, which was nothing. Shell has now bought the station. I'm hoping they don't take out the truck parking, but it's an example of how when you serve this group of Tesla drivers that demand a higher level of service, you can also serve the truck drivers without taking away their services. You can add to the services. Lastly, in the lower left corner are some pictures from a FEMA event that I was at, where we were lined up in a single file line for like a day and a half, something like that. Single file line, nowhere to turn around, 2-lane road, trying to get into this command center so that we could drop our trailers that had tarps and ice and all this stuff. They would come by in a golf cart and give us those MREs and a bottle of water. And we just had to sit there and wait, and crawl along in this big long line. If we had to go to the bathroom, we had to go crawl out into the bush and into the sand dunes to go to the bathroom. It was really a difficult situation. Once we were inside and they were having that meeting with all of the people in it, and you can see that there's 3 men standing up in the front. This is where the truck drivers were actually advising the people from Washington, D.C., from FEMA, because the truck drivers actually know the lay of the land and they were listening. They really were. So the truck drivers do have a lot of valuable insight and information on how some of these things can work and will work. And people do listen. When you show up and you can articulate your thoughts, you will be listened to. But I hear a lot more griping than action. And you kind of have to come together at some point. I find when I talk about truck parking at these events, there are a lot more people willing to help than you think, but they're having a very difficult time getting accurate information from special interest groups. Again, I always want to reiterate, truck drivers are not reimbursed for paid parking. It might be a write-off for an owner operator, but by and large, the company drivers who gravitate to big chain truck stops are not reimbursed for paid parking. So when they're taking out the free spots, they're really hurting the drivers that are paid the very least. Projects are developed and designed at 5, 10, and 15-mile increments, but truck parking is a 50 to 100-mile issue. Some of the areas for improvement would be a requirement for every 100 miles or whatever, 50 miles, there needs to be X number of truck parking spaces where trucks are allowed to stop for X number of hours. I say at least 10, because that is how long our sleeper berth break is. And even though we do have an 8 and 2 rule, it doesn't mean that driver could be in a situation where they ran out of all their hours and they need to get a straight 10. You don't want them going on the road and getting a violation on their record for something like 2 hours, Again, longer range electrified trucks will require 8 hours to recharge. So by designating this now, we can be on top of it later. This does not mean removing existing truck parking in anticipation. It means maybe making truck parking that can be retrofitted as needed in the future. Funding for truck parking. We're hearing a lot of boo-hooing about how there was no truck parking funding in the infrastructure bill. This isn't necessarily true. There's already truck parking when states apply for it, but a lot of states have not applied for it because they don't really know about this issue. As a local level partner and stakeholders who now understand the role that statewide freight committees need in helping communities solve this problem, I want to ask all of you to help by repeatedly asking for updates on all the activities related to truck parking, and especially those that are in the short-term plan. Get a hold of your state DOT offices, find out how to contact your freight advisory committee. You can look up on the internet to find out where they are in the state, and should have an address and a phone number. In Florida, the biggest pot of money is the SIS. It stands for Strategic Intermodal System. So the question, it's even more money than the federal fund. So the question that needs to be asked is, what is the status of the short-term plan? Are there any updates to the strategic intermodal system to include truck parking? I want to go back to this and say a little bit more about the infrastructure bill. So even though the set aside truck parking were not included, they have already been available in high profile grants that have changed names, and they have acronyms. Tiger turned to build, and then it went to raise. Those are the acronyms. But states haven't really been using these funds for truck parking, even though they need it. So the trucking industry is key to sustaining our economy, and truck parking keeps the system resilient and able to keep operations moving before, during, and after major events, weather, and COVID. Truck parking is an equity issue, and throughout the infrastructure bill, they talk about equity, funding equity projects. But funding is not the problem. It's the not in my backyard issues and the cost of land. Section 21104 of the new infrastructure bill will require states to study truck parking and that freight plans are updated more frequently. Government agencies will need to step up and require that truck parking is considered and included as part of all interstates, interchange, and principal arterial projects. This is why it's really important for us to have on the ground advocates that go to meetings, participate, and give input. It's our turn to step up now. Hope Reivenberg and her family have done tremendous work to make truck parking a thing. The babies that she gave birth to 14 days after the murder of her husband are now 11 years old. Josh is 13. Hope remarried a few years ago. The man who came, he was the law enforcement officer who came to tell her that her husband had been murdered, became her friend, her confidant, and now her husband. Nelson was a single dad and Hope was a single mom, and now they have a blended family. Last summer, Hope was diagnosed with stage 4 lymphoma. She's been going through chemo and radiation. She did go into remission. Her hair is growing back, but she cannot keep fighting for all of us. Technically, she's not really in trucking anymore. It's not that she has forgotten Jason. She still has a bike run that they put on every year, and she posts about it. But it's our turn to step up and stop letting these special interest groups tell you their narrative to try to twist this situation around. None of them were there when she started this movement. None of them. It's our turn to get involved in this and go with the facts that truck parking is already an eligible activity and stop boo-hooing about a false narrative. When I close these speaker events, I like to show them the faces of trucking they probably haven't seen. In this case, some who are Florida residents or delivered to Florida, and let them know that truck drivers are providing a public service to them. We need their help on this issue. All of you who are watching this, we need your help too. Contact your freight advisory committee and ask them, is truck parking in the freight plan? How are you studying truck parking? Are you reaching out to the drivers? If they say we don't have that much, will you come and talk to our group? Say, yes, I will. If they do it virtually, that's even better. You can do it from the truck, but we have to get involved at a local level as these freight plans are being redone for 2022. Thank you for watching this presentation. If you have any questions or you want more information from me, these are ways that you can get a hold of me. Real Women in Trucking has a company page on LinkedIn that we just started. Please follow us there. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We have an office number. My general inquiries email is there, my cell phone, and my LinkedIn profile. I appreciate you watching this presentation. Thank you very much.